Hi there, everyone. It's Ifti from Extreme Returns. And today we're going to be looking at one of the holdings in my portfolio. It's Ferrari, also known with the ticker symbol of race. So without much further ado, my name's 𝙋𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙀𝙀. I joined eToro about a year ago, although my Extreme Returns handle has only been operating for just over 4 months. I'm doing reasonably well. 14% this year so far. We've got, should say 40 copiers, hasn't come up there. By background, I'm a chartered management accountant. I've worked for big companies like Unilever and Mars. I went into recruitment consultancy and headhunting. I've also set up my own successful estate agency. More recently, peer-to-peer car hire on Etoro and 𝙋𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤. If you wanted to know more about me, just type in my story, 𝙋𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤, and I've made this fun cartoon. It's only 1.5 minutes long. Have a look at it. I've been featured on the BBC, Independent, Motoring News, Evening Standard. Here's a clip of me from the interview that the BBC came to my house. Very interesting. Have a look at it. Also, do consider subscribing to my channel as well. Only 97 subscribers. I'd like to get it to the magic 100 very soon. Okay, now, Ferrari, there we go, race. I've had this holding for a while now, so let's have a look at it in a bit more detail. Quick background, we all know who Ferrari are, but let's go through this from the beginning. So Ferrari NV, known as Ferrari, is an Italy-based designer, manufacturer, and retailer of sports cars that is incorporated in the Netherlands. It operates under the Ferrari brand. Its sports cars portfolio includes, among others, F12, FF Ferrari 488 GTB, the Spider, the Speciale, California, La Ferrari, very iconic brands. And I think we've got some pictures here as well. There's the Ferrari 812 GTS. I would love to own one of these. There's a Portofino. Anyone would do. There's a Spider as well. Don't they look really, really stunning? Anyway, they also have limited editions operating practically everywhere in the world, 60 markets worldwide. Based in Italy, near Modena. Let's have a look at their market cap. It's 35 billion. Enterprise value is just above that, 36. Quality 84, value 12, momentum 43. We'll come on to those in a moment. Now, let's look at their share price. Pre-pandemic, they were probably around 130-ish, and they've gone up to 196. They have been much higher in nearly 230, gone down significantly since then. But now they've been retracing backwards, upwards, underperforming the market, just about, I guess, 9% over the last year. P/E ratio 38.5. On a cash basis, their P/E ratio is 314. Now that's a red flag. We'll look at that in a bit more detail later. You would expect some kind of more, in capital intensive industries like the car industry, you'd expect less cash flow, but maybe not as much as that. Right, let's dig in a bit in a bit deeper now. Revenue 2.8 billion in 2015. This is in euros, going up steadily to 3.1, 3.4, 2018, 3.7 in 2019, dipped in 2020, as you would expect, not by very much, to be fair. This year, they're expecting 4.3 billion, and next year, 4.7 billion, compound annual growth rate of just over 4%. And we can forgive them for having a low compound annual growth rate, given what's going on in the world at the moment. In terms of profit, it's been growing at a much greater rate, 16% compound annual growth rate, from 288 million euros in 2015 to a high of 785 in 2018, dipped in 2019 and 20, and roaring back this year and next year to record profits. Operating margin is very good. Now, I'm just going to give you, if we just look at operating margin, which is very important, it's in the 20s. Return on capital employed, which has been in the 20s, it dipped in 2020. But let's take the 20s. I'm just going to give you some of the, now it's not fair to compare it with the likes of, say, Ford, but I just want to give you a comparison in the same industry. So Ford have got a very similar market cap. Enterprise value is very different. Now, enterprise value, remember, if it's higher than the market cap, the company's got net debt. Ferrari was roughly the same, but look at Ford, it's a lot worse. And when you look at the fact that Ford have been making major losses, I mean, they were really affected by the pandemic. And even before that, they weren't making very much in 2019. But the operating margins are very, very small, practically non-existent. And return on capital employed also were like that. Now, if you look at a German competitor like, say, Volkswagen, for example, compare their operating margins, which is very low, and return on capital employed is also very low. Now, the reason for that simply is because Ferrari are a brand name. There aren't that many luxury car makers. I mean, if you took at Porsche, for example, I can't find it at the moment. I'll come back to that. I wanted to just look at Porsche, but I think they're part of a bigger group. Let's look at Audi. This security is suspended. Why are they suspended? Okay. I was looking at one earlier. I can't remember which one now. But you get the idea that their operating margins are very healthy, as are their return on capital employed. Now, on a free cash flow basis, if you exclude 2020, being the pandemic year, they were actually very good. Lumpy, to be fair, 1.86 going up to 3.51, then going down to 1.56, and then climbing back up to 3.2 2 years later, but very healthy. Also, they pay dividends, which is really good. And the dividend has been growing, again, with the exception of 2020. Very cash positive. They've got 1.3 billion in the bank at the moment. So all of that is really good, but there are question marks over this brand. Before we look at some of those question marks, I just wanted to take you over to some of their major shareholders. Now, the reason I'm holding Ferrari is because Baillie Gifford are a big investment advisor fund who have a reasonable holding in Ferrari. And their holding is worth probably 33, 1.5 billion plus. Also, one of the things they look at, which I think is really important, is the co-founder should be heavily invested in the company. And you can see Piero Ferrari still has 10% of the company personally. There are lots of other blue chip fund managers who have invested in it as well. So I think it's important to hold on to those kind of companies because research shows that those companies with very good compound annual growth rate for revenue, free cash flow, and having co-founders tend to outperform the market. Looking at their balance sheet very quickly, long-term debt is 2.6 billion. It's the highest it's been for a while, probably ever. Had very little debt in 2013, 2014, but they've been investing very heavily, and we'll come on to that in a moment. I thought I'd give a different version, the other side of it. So this is on Seeking Alpha. Now, this is from a chap called Long Term Tips. He thinks that they are far too expensive. And this was written not that long ago, December 2014. So I'm just going to give you the summary. Ferrari built its brand on racing prestige and exclusivity, making a strong diversification of revenue streams impossible to achieve without devaluing the brand. Current struggles in the Formula One World Championship reflect poorly on the brand's image they haven't won for ages, and as a leader in automotive performance. As the world transitions to EVs, electric vehicles, Ferrari will be forced to follow suit and incur strong blows to the company's brand image as a result. With the inability to successfully monetize the brand's incredible power, Ferrari is fundamentally overvalued. Now, that's the summary from long-term tips. I thought I'd just give you a different perspective. However, I disagree with that. So I'm going to give you another perspective. And that is by these guys who are called Laurentian Research. So as we saw, their share price has been slipping. Mr. Market, who Warren Buffett refers to quite often from the Ben Graham books, was not pleased with Ferrari's Q4 results, selling the stock off by 4%. That's not that much. I actually picked some more up at that time. The seemingly disappointing 2020 headline financial numbers are due to 7 weeks of the factory closure amidst the COVID pandemic. Looking closer, he says, I found the pricing power of the luxury sports car maker remained intact, and that's important, while its order book has actually expanded. The management guided towards a strong growth in revenue and profit in 2021, which appears to be well within reach. And then he's selling his own access. So it talks in a lot more detail about their operations, their financial performance, and so on. I'm not going to go into any detail in that, but suffice it to say that the numbers which Ferrari have actually put out to estimates here, 4.2 billion and 4.67 billion next year, with record profits in 2022 of 873, is something which is very achievable. I like this stock because I think there's a lot more space. It's, first of all, a luxury brand. And if you take 2020 out of the equation, it's actually got a very good track record. I think it's undervalued, and the fact the share price has gone down in the last few weeks doesn't deter me too much. I think they're going to be on an upward spiral. That's my opinion. Anyway, that was me. I'm just going to give you a quick plug for a couple of other family members. Asian Tigers, my wife has got, I think, the only Asian-only fund on the whole of the Etoro platform for popular investors. It's when you go under the copy people and look for people to copy, you come across so many generalists. So my wife thought, well, why don't we look at one specific area that she likes a lot, which is the Far East. There was a big Chinese sell-off, which is why her results are looking not so great. But at one point, she was up by 20% in February alone. She's picked up some more really good companies at really good prices. And I think this is an excellent time to join. I will leave that decision to you. And finally, there's my son. He's a doctor. He looks at companies that will leave the world in a better place. So he's got Natural Foods, he's got Solar Energy, Peloton, Gene Editing, and companies along that line. Doing really well, actually, 10% only in March so far, and we're on the 17th. So this is 𝙭𝙀𝙀 I would hope that you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, help me out, and also copy me, my wife, and my son as well. Thank you very much. Take care and bye.